So till now, we discussed the topics based on Bayes-Savart law. That is, in this chapter, we understood that when there is a current carrying conductor, what is present around it? There is magnetic field present around it. Right. Now, we try to calculate the magnetic field due to different systems of current carrying conductor around them. For example, we applied the concept of Bayes-Savart law to calculate the magnetic field due to a straight current carrying conductor. Then we saw for a circular coil on its axis. Right. So all these things we discussed. In a similar way, if you look at the next part of the chapter, that is going to be a charged particle projected into magnetic field. So that is, in the second case, what is going to happen is, so this is the first case. In the second part of the chapter, what will happen is, you will already have an external magnetic field, and in the external magnetic field, what will happen if a charged particle is passing through it? Okay, so charged particle, when it is passing through it at different orientations, what exactly is going to happen to it? That is what the question is all about. Okay, so just to create a similarity, let's discuss this concept. So in the first chapter, we would have discussed when a charged particle is placed in an electric field. I'm repeating it. When it is placed in an electric field, depending on the nature of the charge, it is going to experience a force. So it experiences a force which is given by F vector is equal to Q into E vector. We know this, right? So charge multiplied by the electric field is going to give me the amount of force that is experienced by this charged particle, right? So if it is a positive charge, the force will be in the direction of electric field. So positive charge, force in direction of electric field. If it is a negative charge, force is in opposite direction of electric field, right? So these are all the concepts that happen. In a similar way, what is going to happen here is, we are going to project a charged particle into a magnetic field, external magnetic field. Means the replacement of this electric field is going to happen in this chapter. That is, let's say there is a magnetic field which is directed into the plane of the paper, right? Say, let's say the magnitude of this field is B. Now, you can think of projecting a charged particle. Here I am using the word projecting, whereas in the case of electric field, we say a charged particle is placed. Even if the particle is not given a velocity, it will experience force. Whereas in the case of a magnetic field, external magnetic field, you need to give a velocity to the particle. So the particle cannot be at rest. So the following factors are observed. So if the charged particle was at rest in external magnetic field, it experiences no force. So these were all the observations that were made by the scientist named Lorentz. So if the charged particle was at rest in external magnetic field, it experiences zero force. So this is the first point. Second, if the charged particle was projected in the direction opposite to the magnetic field, it experiences no force. That is, again, the force is going to be zero. And the next point that was observed is, when it was projected, when I say projected, it is given some velocity. When it was projected at an angle, obviously other than 0 degrees or 180 degrees, it starts experiencing a force. The force expression is given by like this: experiencing a force with the expression F vector is equal to Q into V vector cross B vector. Okay, F vector is equal to Q into v vector cross b vector, where obviously the q is the charge of particle, right? V is the velocity of the particle, and B is the magnetic field into which the particle is projected, the external magnetic field. Okay, so from this concept, what we need to understand is, when a charged particle is given a velocity other than 0 degrees or 180 degrees with respect to the magnetic field, okay, with respect to the magnetic field, it starts experiencing a force with this value, right? What if the charged particle was projected in a combined magnetic and electric field? Then what would have happened is, if the charged particle was projected into combined electric and magnetic fields, it experiences a force of F vector is equal to Q into V vector cross B vector plus Q into E vector. So everything is taken in the vector form. Like this, right? This is going to be the amount of force the particle is going to experience, and the name of this force is called as Lorentz force. So that is what the topic is all about. In this chapter, we are mainly going to concentrate only on the Lorentz force for magnetic field. Okay, let's see how to apply this concept. So the concept next we are going to see is charged particle projected at an angle 90 degrees with respect to the magnetic field. Okay, so what is going to happen? Let's see. So when it is projected at an angle 90 degrees with respect to the magnetic field, so I am considering a magnetic field which is into the plane of the paper. Let's say the velocity given to this particle is v. If it is projected into this magnetic field, then according to Lorentz force for magnetism, it experiences a force of q into v vector cross b vector. So here what we are doing is, we are doing the cross product of the velocity vector and the magnetic field vector. If you recollect the concept, we know that wherever we are performing cross product, right, the resultant, so here the resultant is force vector, the resultant is going to be perpendicular to both velocity vector and the magnetic field vector. It means it will be perpendicular to both the vectors. So let's see what is going to happen in this case. If you observe here, the velocity vector, if I call it as vi cap, the initial velocity vector, okay, if I call the magnetic field as b, then it is going to be in the direction of minus k cap. Then what is going to be the direction of the force vector? So F vector will be equal to, I am assuming the particle to be positively charged, so q into the velocity vector is vi cap cross the magnetic field is b of minus k cap, right? So this is going to be q into v into b into I cap cross minus k cap. Let's recollect the concept. So if I have I, j and k like this, I cross k is going to be minus j, right? I cross k is minus j, but you already have a minus sign, so it will be qvb into j cap. So what is going to happen to this particle is, as soon as it enters the magnetic field, this is going to be the direction of velocity and this is going to be the direction of force. And remember, throughout its journey, it is going to have the force and the velocity perpendicular to each other, because we are doing the cross product, right? So as a result of it, the particle takes a turn. It will no more be able to move in a straight line path. Let us say at this point. So at this point, the velocity vector is going to be like this. Okay. So if I take this to be, so at this point, the velocity vector is going to be tangential to it. At every point, the velocity vector is tangential. This is a known fact. So at this point, what I'm doing is I'm considering this to be x-axis and this to be y-axis. If you observe, the velocity vector of the particle is entering into which quadrant? It is entering into the first quadrant. So what is going to happen is, so this is at point 1. So let's see what is happening at point 2. So this is at point 1. Let's see what is happening at point 2. So F vector will be equal to Q into the velocity vector is going to be the same. because there is no force experienced in the direction of velocity. It is acting only in the direction perpendicular to the velocity. So the velocity of the particle will be constant, means its magnitude is going to be constant. So Q into, can I write it as V of I cap plus j cap cross, the magnetic field is still in the same direction, minus k cap. So I'm going to write it as, it is going to be QVB into I cap cross minus k cap is going to be j cap plus j cross k. So j cross k is going to be I cap with a minus sign. Here it is going to be with a minus sign because you have minus k cap. So it will be j cap minus I cap. So QVB into minus I cap plus j cap. So what is the meaning of it? When the particle is trying to enter into the first quadrant, it experiences a force in the into the second quadrant, because they both are again going to be perpendicular to each other. As a result of it, the particle will take a turn like this. So if you observe, at every point the force and the velocity vector will be perpendicular to each other, and recollect the concept that force and velocity vector perpendicular to each other is possible only in the case of uniform circular motion. So what happens in this case is, that is, when a particle is projected perpendicular to the magnetic field, the particle starts moving in a uniform circular motion. Now our work is to find out what is going to be the radius of the circular path into which the particle is going to move. So what is going to be the radius? How to find it? We know that the force experienced by the particle is going to be Q into V into P. If I take only the magnitude, if you observe, if I take the magnitude of this is QVP. If I take the magnitude of this force, it is still QVP only. Right. So the magnitude of the force that is experienced is going to be Q into V into P. Actually, if you write the cross product, you will get it as QVB sin theta. But velocity and magnetic field are always going to be perpendicular to each other, and force is also going to be perpendicular. So the value of theta is going to be 90 degrees. So when I write Q into V into B is equal to, this is the magnetic force that is experienced by the particle, but this magnetic force is going to provide the necessary centripetal force to the particle for a particle to be in the uniform circular motion. So what happens is V and V will get cancelled, so R will be equal to mv divided by qb. So this is a very, very important formula that is to be remembered. There are many problems asked on this. So the radius of the circular path in which the particle is going to rotate is going to be m into v divided by q into b. Okay. The next part that we are going to calculate is the time taken for the particle to complete one revolution. That is the time period of the particle. So what is the time period of the particle? So the time taken to complete one full revolution is what is called as time period. So time is equal to distance by speed. So what is going to be the distance covered by the particle when it is making one complete rotation? It is going to be 2 pi into r. It is the circumference of the circle divided by what is going to be the speed of the particle. The speed of the particle is still going to be v. So 2 pi into r can be written as mv divided by qb, the whole divided by v. So v and v will get cancelled. It will be 2 pi m divided by qb. So this is going to be the time period of the particle. And remember, time period is independent of velocity. So whatever is the speed with which you are trying to project the particle, it depends only on the mass of the particle, charge of the particle, and the magnetic field to which it is projected. Okay, so it has nothing to do with what velocity you are projecting it into. Okay, the next point is calculating the frequency. So frequency, we know that it is the inverse, the reciprocal of time period. So this can be written as qb divided by 2 pi into m. So this is going to be the frequency of the particle. So when a particle is projected perpendicular to the magnetic field, what is going to happen is it will move in a circular path with the radius which is equal to mv divided by qb. The time period of the particle will be 2 pi m divided by qb, and its frequency is going to be qb divided by 2 pi m. So these are all the formulae that you are supposed to remember only in the case of this perpendicularity.